Welcome to the Resilient Mindset Podcast, an exciting new podcast by Resilience Queen, Justine Martin. Justine is the owner and founder of the Resilient Mindset, a division of the Justine Martin Corporation. Justine draws on her years of experience and knowledge consulting with clients to develop and sustain a positive mindset. Focused on igniting your passion, purpose and power, follow the Resilience Queen each week as she delves into the mind of her guests, exploring fascinating stories and inspiring journeys.
Alison Wheeler is a true powerhouse in life and business. She is a world-renowned confidence coach, multidisciplined award-winning performance athlete and celebrated entrepreneur. Alison and her family now call the Gold Coast, Queensland home. Her success as an athlete and entrepreneur is magnetic, and her presence is real, raw, and authentic. Having the focus combined with the right balance of patience plus persistence, with a whole lot of life experiences, enables Alison to work clients to take them to the level they only dream of. With Alison's guidance, the ability to help the clients stretch enables them to reach their potential at a pace that sparks motivation. Sure, at times, you might hit a wall, yet Ali will help you climb over it and leap over the hurdles on the other side. Alison is a published author, contributor and mentor. She has qualifications in the Bachelor of Health Science, NLP trained, many coaching certificates in a multitude of different practices. With this combined experience, Alison assists women who have hit a ceiling, feels burned out, and still knows there is more inside. Unlock and express that customizing their life and businesses to themselves, reaching new levels of success in a way that works. No more burnout, no more wondering when I will have the space to live my life. Welcome, Alison, to the Resilience Mindset Podcast. How are you today?
I'm great, thank you, Justine, and thanks for having me.
You're more than welcome. Let's get straight into it today. What does resilience mean to you?
That's a really interesting question, and I've pondered that question. To me, it really means the ability to draw upon resources within to continue on through life and adversity and all of those things that tend to crop up and want to take us off track. It's that reservoir within that we can tap on or tap into to move forward and continue.
That's a great definition. What's an adversity that you've personally faced, and how did you draw on your resilience to cope?
Yeah, sure. So I've had a few different ones, but I've had a few through my sporting career and also business where, injury or illness has been a major kind of roadblock stopper. So, burnout and different things. I remember, and I've been an athlete most of my life. I've also had a business for a long time. So there was a time in my sporting career where I got glandular fever, and it was pretty bad, as in it really flattened me completely. So that's I had huge goals. I was doing very well in my sport, but I had to really dig deep and find something within to still, because I couldn't do anything through that time. I couldn't train. Everything else sort of had to go on hold. My whole priority system needed to change. So really needed to dig deep and find within to not fall into the deepest, darkest pits of despair and still have some focus on, okay, well, just take the very next step and the very next step, and whatever that looked like at the time, with still staying focused on that overall goal. It was the trajectory that was going to change. And then I had burnout in my previous business as well. And it was the same, facing the resilience to go, okay, all right, look, literally you've gone to the point you can't do anymore. You cannot push this hard. Your body is saying that is enough. To dig within and be willing to restock and retake and go, okay, am I even willing to reapproach that business and go again? Do I need to modify how I'm doing everything, or do I need a whole new business that, like, am I chucking the baby out with the bathwater? Really faced with so many big questions in those moments where you're stopped in your tracks to then really reassess and relook. And I think there's probably easier ways to do that than the ways I've chosen in terms of getting sick and things like that. However, that seems to be how it happens for me. So
you and me both.
You're right. Both. I'm learning to do it differently, right? Like, and that's, I guess, the benefit for me as I get to teach people that is you can do it.
And that is resilience. Like, when you learn from what's happened in the past and you adapt and you modify, that builds the resilience then. Some of us aren't quite so smart, and we repeat it a couple of times before we think, oh, hang on, that didn't work the first, second or third time. Yeah,
and I think when because I've gone through that as well, where it seems like you're repeating the same cycle, right? Like it's like, haven't I learned this already? Haven't I been through this? What did I not get? Like, why am I here again? But I do think that we just have missed something. There's a piece of the puzzle or a truth or a piece of knowledge or a learning. There's something that we haven't grasped fully. We might have got 90% of the picture, but there's still 10% that we either haven't learned or haven't been willing to see that, and I do think that makes a difference when we go through it again. It's like, okay, well, that ability or that willingness to stand back and actually look at it for what it is, as opposed, and it takes resilience, it takes courage, right, to be able to go, okay, hold on, yes, I've got to deal with that situation. Like I had to, like if it's a health issue or whatever, which was for me, I had to tangibly deal with that. But at the same time, I needed to be able to stand back far enough to go, okay, while I'm handling that, how did I get here and what am I going to do differently moving forward? Because otherwise I just end up in the same place again.
Yeah, and having true grit. My new word this year is grit. I read it somewhere the other day about resilience and grit, a very similar word, and they are. And it's having the grit to, to move forward and, put the fears aside if you have had something that has failed in your life. So whether it's a business or a relationship, and courage to put yourself back out there again and see what you can do. Would you agree?
Absolutely. It definitely takes courage because you've got this thing that's happened that you perceive now as a loss, right? So, and it's like, well, I don't want to lose again. It's painful. So it's like, why do I want to, I don't know if I want to put myself in that pain again. But if, like the alternative really is retracting. And for me, that was, I guess, a worse alternative, or I perceived that as a worse alternative. But sometimes, too, we do need to, and certainly for me, I've had those moments where I've just needed to take the time to regroup and then reformat my vision. Like, where do I want to go from here? It's the frustration, I think, part of that grit, right, is through the frustration of making a new vision for yourself where one might have fallen down and collapsed and not, I've found that part quite challenging because in the chaos of the thing that's occurred for me, which was illness, I really lost sight of dreaming and when you're in the thick of that, and even being willing to dream, it's like, yeah, but I can't even get out of bed. How am I supposed to think about all these grand things that I want to do when literally for the last month I've struggled to get out of bed every day? So, it's that willingness as well to have that curiosity for life again and that grit to be able to go, you know what, okay, all of those things are crappy. There's still life left in me. I've still got something to give, or I still have, this is not done. I'm not finished. So
my story's not over.
Story's not over, right?
Let's write another chapter.
Yes, and being able to turn the page.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. And it doesn't mean that you can't go back and reflect and read the previous chapters. Just don't live in them.
Yeah, absolutely. What are they? There's the saying of, when you're driving a car, the front window's huge and the rear vision mirror is tiny for a very good reason.
That's right. That's exactly right. So what are some of your coping mechanisms, Alison?
In terms of when things do go wrong?
Yeah.
Usually, well, my first instincts, and none of them are good. I usually throw the baby out with the bathwater. I get annoyed, first reactions. Generally, none of those are good, but I also am well enough aware that I'm reacting, right? Like, I kind of allow that, as long as it's not damaging other people. I know that that's kind of let the steam off, get that through.
And you have to do that. Don't think that that's not part of, that is a strategy for coping and the first thing that we actually do. So there's no right and wrong in it, and we all do it totally differently. So
absolutely. There tends to be step number one, but with all that, it's a lot of energy, right? Like, particularly if you tend towards getting frustrated. So I will do whatever. For me, getting outside into out of four walls, so getting back into nature, moving my body is essential. Like, movement for me is possibly one of the biggest answers. Like, if I can move that energy on and move whatever I can through, because that gives me clarity of mind.
So you're talking exercise, Alison?
Exercise, generally, yeah.
Which releases those good endorphins back into your body, and you always feel better afterwards. Yeah. So with me, with having MS and my body's always failing me, and the last 5 years I've had 3 primary cancers at once, and it's been really hard. But I have found, like you, that movement for me, I go for a walk, no matter how big the walk is, and go to the gym 3 days a week. And my coping strategies in stress, used to eat. I don't eat so much anymore when I'm stressing. I go and move. I even get up and I do cleaning, something vigorous to get that anger and de-stress and turn the mind off while I'm doing it.
Absolutely. And I think too, another strategy is I chunk things right down, because at those moments I can't think bigger picture at all, right? Like, that part of my brain is completely turned off. So I tend to chunk it down, and it might be that I set a 5 or 10 minute timer to get, it's like, okay, just do this thing that you need to get done. That 5 minutes, that's it. Do whatever you can do with it for 5 minutes. And then if you don't do any more, okay, no problem. And it's sort of that eat the elephant theory with a teaspoon at a time. It allows me to not get overwhelmed by the task at hand when you're feeling rubbish, because obviously tend to, feel worse about what's at hand when you're not feeling great. Like, everything feels bigger. So that's another strategy that I do. I tend to journal, gratitude, although in those moments I don't feel a lot of gratitude for anything, so that tends to come after.
Yeah.
Look for
and it's a process. It's a step by step. You're not going to do everything at once.
No, exactly.
Would you say it's like regaining control?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that absolutely. It's any steps I can to regain control. And I think I've used, in the past, I've definitely used not so positive methods, or used even exercise as a punishment, as opposed to now I realise, well, hold on, this is actually something that helps my body, or used food to control, because it's like, well, that's the only thing I feel like I can control. That's not so great. That usually does not end well.
Do you have any comfort foods? Because I know for me, a hot jam ball donut is a comfort food, because my nana used to get them and pop them in the oven, and it's the warmth and the comfort and the remembering her hugs and her love, which is associated with that food. And Chinese is another one for me. It's the last meal I can ever remember my mum, my dad, and my brother and I sitting down and having as a family, because my parents divorced. So when I'm trying to cope, or, there's something that's wrong in my life, I know that I'm either reaching for a jam ball donut or I'm reaching for a dim sim. And I don't need either of those. What I need is just a hug and someone to sit there and talk to, and have that companionship and that affection, rather than the extra calories, which will feel good for about 30 seconds while it's going down. And then I have the guilt that's associated with eating it. And it's like, oh, I couldn't afford those calories today. And then I'm on the spiral again. Oh, well, let's eat some potato chips and stuff like that. Do you have any comfort foods when you eat your feelings?
I think that for me, it's hot drinks.
Is it?
Yeah. So, and I think that, I've spent a lot of time trying to work this one out. I do think it's a similar thing, though. So when I grew up in New Zealand, it was cold. So it's just pure comfort. So I have this association that a hot drink is comforting. Hot drink is like a cuddle in a cup, right?
So are we talking hot chocolate or coffee?
Doesn't really matter. It could be coffee, tea, hot chocolate. Doesn't actually necessarily matter what the thing is. It's because it's more the association.
Yeah,
now that does mean that I have to be super vigilantly aware, because I could end up drinking a multitude of coffees a day, which is no good for you, right? So
I'm allergic to caffeine, so I'm jealous of anyone that can drink tea, coffee, or eat chocolate.
So you know what I mean? But you do, but it's not. It doesn't really satisfy. It's temporary satisfaction, but it doesn't. Because underlying that, really, I just want a hug and to be told everything's going to be okay, right? That's what I'm actually looking for. So I've learned,
even if it's not, it's still you still need someone to tell you
whether it is or it isn't. I just want someone to tell me that.
Yeah,
they can blatantly lie to my face. That's fine.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
I'm all good with that. I just want to hear that in that moment. Everything's going to be fine.
And that's why I pay for counselling. I pay now someone that I can go and sit and vent and get everything off my chest, rather than friends and family who go, oh God, here she goes again, or ranting on social media or whatever it is. I actually pay a counsellor, and I go every fortnight and I dump and offload, and that to me has saved me thousands of calories, because I'm not eating my feelings. I'm actually talking to someone about them, and someone who will sit and listen without judgment as well.
Absolutely.
Which is really important.
I think that's hugely mentor, counsel, whatever it is for the individual, that just ability to communicate with another person. That's another person, safe person. And often it's better if it is a third party, because quite honestly, family and friends get tired of the same old story, right? Yeah. So and
they could be negative themselves. Not saying that my family are, if you're listening, my family today. But quite often, they'll be negative, or they're dealing with their own stuff in their own lives, and they don't have the patience or recognise what you're actually going through as well. So, third party, paying someone that is neutral is a really good coping mechanism, and it does help build resilience, and it does help build grit.
Yeah, because also you're not holding it all in and thinking
that's right.
that you're 10 foot tall and bulletproof and I can handle this, right?
Yeah.
I've got it, I can handle it, when very clearly you're not, and you aren't. Or I'll just do it all myself. It's like, well, on what planet are you going to do it all yourself? We are tribal beings, right? We're supposed to talk to other people and be around other people.
And don't be a martyr and trying to do it yourself.
Totally.
Yeah. The biggest lesson I've learned over the last few years is outsourcing.
Yeah.
If I can't do it and it's beyond me, then I outsource it.
Yep. But that's also a willingness, right? And I think this comes into resilience and grit. It's a willingness to ask for help.
Yes. Yes, definitely. And not see it as failure, but seeing it as strength. It takes a lot of guts to ask for help in life, and it shouldn't.
It should be simple, right? It should be, I don't know how to do that. Can you help me?
Yeah. Or I can't physically do that. I need help in doing it.
Absolutely.
Swallow your bloody pride. Put it behind you, because pride isn't going to get you anywhere into the future and where you want to go, and just ask for that help.
Agreed.
Yeah, most definitely. So, Alison, who are your role models in resilience?
Look, I guess across years, probably numerous athletes, just because that's been what I've been sort of indoctrinated into.
Mm-hmm.
But if I think about when I grew up, I would say my dad and my mum. So my father had 2 kidney transplants. When the first I would have been maybe, I think, around 3, 4. On dialysis for a long time. Second one, I was about 11 or 12. And then he ended up passing away of adrenal cancer. But he just, I don't even know where the depths of his resilience came from. Like, he just never really, he had his moments, but he didn't give up on life. He still had goals up until, he couldn't have goals anymore. He always had goals. Some of them I would question as his daughter, going, what on earth? But I think it was just, he just tangibly would always make a goal, even if it made no sense to anyone else.
Doesn't have to.
It doesn't have to, right?
No.
But that just really showed me always the importance of having a goal, something to move towards, whether it makes sense to someone or not.
Well, goals are just dreams put into practice.
Yeah, exactly.
Put into play. That's, that's what a dream is.
Yeah, so that would be my dad. And then my mum, who I was reminded of, I haven't seen her for 3 years, obviously, because of all of the COVID and pandemic and travel and everything. So she's just been over from New Zealand. And, she's not young. She's not super old, but she's not young. But she will give anything a go.
Yeah.
Still, we took her to golfing and things and all sorts of stuff, and she just gives it a go. And I'm thinking, you could so easily sit there and sit this out and go, no, I'm too old. I'm not, make up all the excuses in the world. I think she's held a golf club. Well, that would be the second time in her entire life. But she just gave it a go. And I thought, and then eventually, right, after a few goes, actually started to enjoy it. And I thought, wow, so many people would just sit it out, particularly at her age. And I thought, it just really was so heartwarming, and it really reminded me of...
You're inspired. I can see it on your face.
I was inspired, remember to just, I thought, wow, all right, just give it a go. What's the worst that can happen? Not a lot, right? It's not wasn't life or death. Although sometimes I do think we make it out to it. But most situations aren't.
No, they're not.
So, they would be, my parents would be my biggest role models for resilience.
That's awesome. That's great. Life's too short not to try. And we're always, a lot of people stop learning. Yeah. And they stop learning at, a young age. Oh, yeah, I've been to university or, finished high school. I know everything I need to know. You keep learning right up until the day that you die, as far as I'm concerned.
Right, I think that's the point, right? You're either growing or you're retracting. There's nowhere in between, because even if you think you're staying still and you know everything, the world will surpass you by.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Yeah. It doesn't stop.
Nope. It doesn't, not at all. Okay, next question. Is there someone who inspires you? So you've already said your mum. Is there someone else that inspires you?
The main things are my mum and my dad. I think the other, I guess, maybe not inspire, my reason why I do what I do would be my daughter. Because
and how old is she?
She is now 13, so she's turning 14 in a few months. She's been a big driver because for me, it's not enough to speak words.
Yeah.
Right? If
action,
I want to be the demonstration to her of what's possible. It's great to tell her all these wonderful things and have this mindset and blah, blah. But if I'm doing the opposite, she's just going to think I'm a hypocrite.
Yeah. And a liar.
Right? And then eventually go, well, why am I going to do that? You don't. Right. So that she is a very great mirror. At times I don't necessarily think great, but she is a really great mirror. She will undoubtedly let me know when I'm off track. But one of my greatest inspirations and drivers, because I just think it's so important to be that demonstration to, the next generation.
Yeah. And we have to look after that generation. They are the future of the planet, and what their little minds take in. I wrote and illustrated a children's book last year on equality and inclusion for my grandchildren. I've got 7 now. And, life is busy, I can tell you, Alison. And, creating a better future for them and being the role models, not just for my kids, but for, my grandchildren as well, that anything is possible if you set your mind to it, no matter the adversity that you're facing, and that you will gain resilience in the process of it. So what are some of your passions?
I'm extremely passionate about my family. I'm very passionate still about health and sport and expression, self-expression. And I absolutely love coaching other women to be fully expressed beings and actually communicate and live the life they want to.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about your business. Tell us about your business and what you do.
Yeah, look, I coach women in the area of both confidence in terms of knowing themselves and how to go about living their life, know-how as well in terms of application, particularly more towards business in terms of growing their businesses. But I also do coach women in quite high leadership positions as well within different organisations. So that's my passion. And I have written a book. I wrote a book last year as well, and it's called Living from the Inside Out, How to Be a Modern Day Wonder Woman.
And where can we get that book?
Yep, so you can jump on either on Amazon, it's on Amazon, or you can jump on my website, which is thealisonwheeler.com, also available there as well. And, I think a lot of women try and be superwoman. I think we need to overcome that, which I think creates martyrdom and burnout. So moving into kind of more of a holistic way to live where you recognise all of your actual superpowers and live from those, I think is really important.
Yeah, me too, most definitely. All right, I've got some other little quirky questions now for you that you don't know about. What's your favourite book and why?
The Alchemist.
Good book.
Love it because I like all personal development business books. I'm continuously either reading them or listening to podcasts or whatever, but the fable, the way it's written, like you can draw whatever learning. I like The Traveler's Gift too. So sort of where I can read that book multitude of times, and every time I gain a new piece of insight or a new way, it's just, that whole point of coming home to yourself.
Yeah.
And then living that authenticness. So that would be my favourite.
Pineapple on pizza, yes or no?
Pineapple on, my daughter would say yes because she loves it.
I like your daughter.
Yeah. I, on the other hand, am not such a fan.
All right. Well, if we ever have pizza together, it'll be half pineapple. And
half. That's what we do, see? There's always a way to work it out.
Yeah. What's one thing that you can't live without?
Oh, oxygen. No, my family.
Your family? Yeah, I thought you might say that. If you could go back to when you were 18, what's a word of advice you would give yourself?
Stay authentic and true to yourself no matter what.
Yeah. Mine would be learn to say no.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's good too.
If you're stranded on a desert island, what's one thing that you wish you had?
Water.
Nice answer. Survival. Tea or coffee or hot chocolate?
Coffee.
How do you have your coffee?
Usually with a little bit of almond milk.
Favourite music?
Good question. I don't necessarily listen to a lot of music. I would say 70s, 80s, old school.
Yeah, same. Big hair bands for me, actually.
Yeah, that's right.
Hang on,
Big
Bon Jovi
warmers,
and Def Leppard. Anyone that knows me will know that I know all the words to those. When I have an MRI, and I've had I think 24 of them, I ask the Bon Jovi up loud, really, really loud, so it drowns out all the other sounds.
Nice.
Okay, favourite food?
Oh. Roasted broccolini.
Really?
Yeah, I love vegetables. Weird, right?
Are you a vegan or vegetarian?
No, I have had periods of time where I've been all of those things. There are periods of no. I just love veggies.
Wow, roasted broccoli. No one has ever said that. People might say chocolate or, cheesecake or something, but I mean, remember that one?
No, if you took vegetables out of my ability, off the food selection, I would be very sad.
Yeah, me too. I'm a big veggie eater as well. But I'm histamine intolerant, so there's lots of veggies I can't eat. And
you can't have
the majority of the food on the planet I can't eat. So
yeah.
Okay, here's the last burning question. Does the toilet paper go forwards or backwards?
Oh, backwards.
Really? If I came to your house, I'd flip it around. I'm so OCD about it. I'm one of those.
I had to really think about that. I'm like, how do I have that? I think
does it go down the back of the wall or does it come over the front?
That's why I had to think about it, to visualise it.
Down the back. Lucky we're all different and there's right and wrong answer in any of that. Though some people may say there is a right answer in
I'm
the
sure
toilet
they do.
paper one. Yeah. Well, Alison, I'd really love to thank you for being on the Resilience Mindset podcast today.
Oh, thanks, Justine, for having me. It's been a hoot.
You're welcome. And is there one final thing of advice you'd like to share with the listeners today?
I think, a big part of what I believe in terms of, everyone goes through some tough times and things that will knock you off track is regroup, find your vision again and hold on to that thing with everything you've got and just take the next step, whatever it is, big, small, it doesn't matter.
Most definitely. Great words of advice there. Okay, listeners, well, until next time, you know the drill. Stay resilient.
Would you like to read more about resilience from Justine Martin? Grab one of her co-authored books, Release the Shackles, Courage and Confidence, or Roar. All available online at justinemartin.com.au/shop. We hope you enjoyed the Resilience Mindset podcast. Remember to subscribe to the podcast to get your weekly fix listening to Resilience Queen Justine Martin. Follow Justine on social media at Resilience Mindset or log on to justinemartin.com.au. And until next time, remember, life doesn't get easier or more forgiving. We get stronger and more resilient.